Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss chikungunya virus and MSK manifestation. Okay, so if we see the chikungunya virus, which is current scenario what we all are facing, and if I say about myself, I am consultant rheumatologist, and many of the time we get a call from our physician friend as well as few of the medicine resident that should we treat it with steroid? Should we start hydroxychloroquine? Should we start methotrexate? So there are so many questions like this, and some people say, "Oh, I started steroid; it worked beautifully." Right now, how much should I continue? Should I stop it? There are so many questions which are unanswered and which requires logic because, as we know, steroids are not simple drug. So if something can be managed by simple medication, why we want to go with too much, right? So with this very simple brief introduction, this total discussion is meant for doctors, not for general public. So we'll limit it to this and we will discuss how to manage and what are the things in chikungunya virus and musculoskeletal manifestation, right? We will be focusing on musculoskeletal manifestation. Fine. So this will be, I think, the best slide I ever wanted to start. That whenever we start things like this in our current generation, we see, okay, something good is going to come. So I hope I can keep my promise that you learn something with this presentation. So the first question, who is listening? Rheumatologist who deals with chikungunya virus arthritis, but mostly they are referral case. Orthopedician, we get the common references from orthopedician, and patient with joint pain goes to orthopedic surgeon, and that's quite fair thing to do. Next is the physician who is the majority time dealing with the chikungunya arthritis, because when the joint pain combines with fever, it goes to physician most of the time. These are the acute situation, right? And I will say any doctor. It is important what we are dealing with this, right? So this is our divisions what we have made. But as such, patient goes to a doctor with some complaint and we are supposed to address it. That's what we were taught in our MBBS, right? But then we made specialities. That's fine. So we'll discuss this topic in the under the outline of a little introduction about the virus. I won't take much on that. Next will be the clinical presentation. You already know it, but we will just see the spectrum of clinical presentation of chikungunya arthritis. And next we will go to the management guidelines where everyone is interested. And after this session, when we close, you have freedom to comment and ask question and answer. We will try to answer it, right? So this will be the four part of discussion what we'll be doing today for chikungunya virus arthritis and its management. So the first thing, introducing the part, the chikungunya in the world first appeared somewhere in 1952 in Africa, and till date it is present. So I have so many resident friends listening this, and someone may make MCQ out of that. That's a sad status of our country, but let it be. This is where in Africa somewhere it started, and somewhere in India 2004 or 5 what we say was the first occurrence, and still it is ongoing thing, right? So that was the first time India encountered something like chikungunya, and that was the first epidemic what we faced, and it is recurring. But unfortunately, the US is not affected. Why I'm saying unfortunately? Otherwise, we would have a guidelines, we would have so many things how to manage and all very easily, and no one would have been arguing. We believe in that science so much, but you can take it as an opportunity that chikungunya virus is something that where the research and data provision is your responsibility or our responsibility as Indians, because we have this case which is neither there in US nor there in Europe. They are the major people who provide the data and all. So why we should not take that initiative? This is just a sensitizing slide. Someone who is in academic research and all, otherwise I am sure that we are pretty much focused. Tell me how to manage it rather than telling all this thing. That's fine. It's my responsibility, so I am telling. Let's go to the next slide. The culprit and the carrier, or culprit and the vector. The culprit is the virus, right? It's alpha virus family of the Toga virate family. So it's alpha virus of the Toga virate family. This is your chikungunya virus, which cripples us sometime. Okay. What is a vector of that? It's a female Aedes aegypti in majority of the case, and the same vector applies for the dengue also. And that is a worse scenario to have co-infection, because when I want to use NSAIDs, I am little skeptical there, right? That is the part we have to be very careful. We have to investigate for that acute viral illness where the dengue and chikungunya can be investigated together. If platelets are low, I will be little careful about giving NSAIDs treatment. Aedes albopicus also can be a vector to chikungunya. And how we identify this Aedes aegypti? The next time a mosquito is biting you or someone, just see whether this black and white thing is there. If it's a black and white, it's Aedes aegypti, and that is the part which can transmit chikungunya virus, which can transmit dengue virus, which can transmit Zika virus, right? So we have to be very careful with this mosquito. And that's what I'm telling right now. We are going to discuss management, but I'm pretty sure I will talk about some slide on prevention also, because that makes the difference. Management is something we are talking about the secondary or tertiary prevention level. We should work on the primordial or primary prevention level, right? So this is the culprit and the carrier of chikungunya virus. And if we see the clinical presentation, NEJM has given a very good slide on that. That after the infection, means the mosquito bite happened and the virus entered in the blood, there is an incubation period of 2 to 6 days. And after that incubation period, the major most common features are fever, myalgia, polyarthralgia, polyarthritis, and rash. Now, fever in this case mostly lasts about 1 week. It happens in 90% of the patient. The myalgia also lasts for 7 to 10 days, happens in 90% of the patient. While your polyarthralgia, polyarthritis can last for week to months, and that is the I think focus of discussion what we all have. That fever has been resolved, but this arthritis is not resolving. What to do, doctor? Right? That is the major time concern or the reference to specialist. That is the point. What to do? Right? So 95% of patient will face that being the most common manifestation. Rash is not in all the patient. It is seen in 40 to 50% of patient which last for 1 week. Right? So this is the clinical features we identify chikungunya. Right? And when we want to investigate for chikungunya, we will say patient has come too early, send chikungunya PCR. If patient has come after 1 week or somewhere, you send it for IgM. Now, let me tell you a very clear thing that 7 days what you are calling is from the day of bite, not from the day of the symptom. Okay, so this is the beautiful thing to understand. This is the point. The virus came in the body and body's immune system started working on that, and around at 7 days, around at 1 week, it has made IgM antibody. So it is detectable 3 to 8 days after the symptom onset. After the symptom onset, 3 to 8 days, not total 1 week you are going to wait there. Usually persist for 1 to 3 months, and this is a very important point. Usually in the initial 3 days of symptom, it's a chikungunya PCR which detects the viremia, right? So that is a very important point. Now at this point I want you to focus. When a virus enters in the body, it takes the incubation period of 2 to 6 weeks, where it is trying to enter into the body soil and do its work. What is body doing there? What is our immune system of the body doing there? It is fighting that virus. It is fighting that virus. So initial phase is the fight phase. How do we fight the virus? We fight the virus by most of the time interferon. And what is the source of interferon most of the time? It is your CD8 cell and NK cell. I know I'm going little in detail and I'm not doing any show of being immunologist here. But this is most important to understand here, that CD8 cell, NK cell, and to the certain extent afterwards B cell, which will start making antibodies, are trying to fight. Now when we give steroid, it down regulates everything. That's what I was trying to convey. In initial phase, if you give steroid, you are bringing down the fight from the body. In relieving the pain of patient, you are weakening the immune system. Then arthritis will last longer, right? So we have to be very careful on this part, that how when not to give steroid. At least in initial phase, do not give steroid. Don't get biased with severity of the symptom ki this patient is crippled, cannot walk only. That should not lead you to give steroid. First give NSAIDs, do the hydration, and then you see what is happening. If that respond to that, you can avoid the steroids. We will come to that part, but at this point it is my duty to tell you that why I am not a steroid favoring person from very starting or even at very end. Okay, because the fight, when body is giving it, you should not weaken the fight, right? So these are the clinical feature and this is the laboratory part. We will come to laboratory part one more time. If we see from a very good article from Nature, which has given the arthritis chikungunya virus clinical spectrum. The most common are arthralgia and arthritis, which usually last week to month. Okay, these are the symptoms which bothers us. See, if this was disappearing in 1 week or 10 days, we were not even discussing this part. Let it be, it's fine, it's acute viral illness which goes away, but it lasts for some time. So we start doubting, is it like RA? We should treat like it rheumatoid arthritis. Should we give steroid? Should we give methotrexate? We will come to that. In certain scenario we have to give. We will come to that part. But this last, so it irritates. Otherwise, fever, myalgia, headache, rash, fatigue, diarrhea, and edema can be manifestation. Now, when I come to edema, many of the case we see the fit edema in the case of chikungunya arthritis, and they are due to tenosynovitis in most of the case. Right? Synovitis means joint. Tenosynovitis means periarticular, surrounding the joint, whatever tendons and the tenosynovium is there, that is inflamed. That gives the edema kind of picture in chikungunya arthritis. So these are the common things to tell. Common means more than 20% at least, and these are the most common manifestation what we can say to be there, right? So these are the manifestation which we are focusing to make a clinical suspicion of chikungunya virus arthritis. Now, if I go ahead for the atypical and severe manifestation, neurological manifestation seen in 40% of the hospitalized patient like encephalitis, meningoencephalitis, and GBS like presentation. Cardiovascular in 27% of hospitalized patient can have hypotension, myocarditis, arrhythmia. Skin, 10% patient can have hyperpigmentation, bullous dermatosis, erythema. Renal, 26% can have albuminuria, hematuria, and nephritis. 14 to 26% of admitted patient can have respiratory symptom including dyspnea, respiratory failure, and pneumonia. 10% have vascular manifestation, hemorrhagic sign, bleeding gums, and melena. And ocular is less common than other the atypical symptom, which includes conjunctivitis, photophobia, and retinitis. And very less common, liver can be involved with hepatitis, hepatomegaly, and altered function. So these are what we call the atypical manifestation of chikungunya virus clinical picture. These were typical, these were atypical. So if you are a resident, MD resident student, in a way it helps you to write your short note also. We talked about the virus, we talked about the vector, we talked about when it started, how it started, and then we are talking about the clinical manifestation including incubation period and clinical picture. Now this is a very important slide to tell. I will say it's a slide of the day again from the same article, that is the rheumatological manifestation of chikungunya, which is published in Nature Review. Okay, so this article I will say is a must read for all of us. It gives a beautiful information about chikungunya, and I have taken majority of the things from that article because it makes it very authentic to discuss here even, right? So this is the picture of acute chikungunya, this is the picture of chronic chikungunya. If you see the acute chikungunya data, it is there from Reunion Island, it is from Saint Martin, and also it's from India and Brazil. So green what is given is from the India, right? These numbers. So if you see in acute chikungunya, the most common involved joint is somehow wrist and elbow. That is the Indian data what it says. Okay. Even the spine is involved in 34% patient, knee is involved in 25% patient, feet is involved in 3% case, and ankle is involved in 18% case. So this is the chikungunya arthritis. The most common involved joint is wrist and hand. Now see, the first thing you have to believe is this is data, right? This is not the fact all the time. This is the available fact in the literature. So if your patient comes with ankle joint, it does not say that ankle joint is not that common in chikungunya arthritis. No, your patient has it. So you have to go for that, right? Because most of the time, this time what we are seeing chikungunya, I am seeing more of the lower limb arthritis compared to upper limb arthritis. That is my observation bias. You might be seeing more of upper limb arthritis. The simple rule is fever with arthritis in acute condition, suspect chikungunya. That's simple. This is the common distribution. It tells it can involve almost any of the joint. And most of the time it is a 2 or 3 joint or just one joint. So it's a mono or oligoarthritis over polyarthritis in acute condition. When we see the chronic chikungunya, unfortunately India does not have data, right? You don't see the green color. So do you want to take up it as a thesis? Chikungunya virus and chronic arthritis and the distribution? It can be published in a very good journal, right? Because the data is not there right now. It is there, but not in the Nature, not till 2017. After that, it's been published from Pune. But still, you can take it from your part. Okay, so it will be very useful data to have. So if you see the chronic condition again, the distribution is again in the wrist, hand, and feet, and this. So when you have distribution in the wrist, hand, and feet, and if it's a polyarthritis, which is chronic, now you apply that ACR Euler criteria for RA, and you will classify it as RA. But what mistake we do? We do the mistake of not reading criteria what is written in the down. The down it is written after ruling out the other conditions, you have to classify it as RA. Ruling out other condition includes chikungunya, right? So if the chikungunya is the explanation for that symmetrical polyarthritis, I will not classify my patient as rheumatoid arthritis. That is very important point. Why I'm so much on this? I won't classify and I will label it chikungunya chronic arthritis, because when you label things correctly, you manage it correctly. When I label something rheumatoid arthritis, as a rheumatologist, it is little difficult for me to stop the drugs for 2-3 years and like that. If I label something chikungunya arthritis, even if I started DMARDs, my mind always work, let me stop it. There is a chance patient is in remission, 3 months, 6 months, and I can be out of that. So that makes a lot of difference in your patient management. Once you start any drug, it is very difficult to stop if you consider disease is chronic, right? Who has the daring of stopping anticonvulsant in life? Very few doctors, right? So same way this is like this. If a rheumatologist or someone has started methotrexate, it becomes very difficult now whether to stop it or not. And as you go ahead and ahead in patient's life, the retrospectively the memory of the disease wanes off and they also do not remember. Dr. Fever was there, but it was for just 2 days. But if someone has proven and labeled it properly chikungunya virus arthritis, life becomes too easy, right? That this is the patient, I can taper off. So this is quite an important thing to take in our practice also, right? So this, I will say, the slide of the day, the pattern is must remember and must see. You can pause the video, take the screenshot, it will be quite useful here. Okay, now time is the only thing which matters in life for each of us, right? But in chikungunya also it matters. So the first phase is the acute phase, which is labeled as less than 3 months. Now see, this is epidemiological definition, that acute phase is less than 3 months, chronic phase is more than 3 months. In acute phase, you have viral PCR for 0 to 5 days to investigate, IgM chikungunya days 7 till the 2 to 3 months, IgG chikungunya days 7 onwards. While in chronic phase, it is IgG chikungunya virus. Now this is very important. RF, anti-CCP, HLA-B27 if indicated. This is not a joke. Okay, something written on a paper does not mean you investigate that. The problem is this test can be false positive, specifically rheumatoid factor. What will you do if it's a false positive? Will you label it rheumatoid arthritis? Even patient symptoms are not explaining the pattern. Some people may label it rheumatoid arthritis because test is positive, and that's a sad status of our country. We go for investigation before we go for the clinical history and examination, right? Sometimes even reference comes through WhatsApp that RF is positive, doctor, what to do next? Nothing. You send me a patient or you examine the patient, take the history, and then we decide what to do next. We may discard that investigation. We may delete that WhatsApp, delete for all. Okay, so that is possible there. It's a quite an important notice, things to notice. This is, even though written, we have to be very careful in this. And if I say another phase we need to discuss is after 2 weeks are over, after 2 weeks are over or 3 weeks are over. So for my clinical practice, I divide chikungunya in the acute, subacute, and chronic. Acute is 0 to 14 or 21 days. I take this liberty to have that margin of 14 to 21 days. Subacute is after 2 to 3 weeks to 3 months, and chronic is after 3 months. So when my patient comes to me with joint pain and it is a chikungunya to start with, always I put my patient in that category. Is it acute, subacute, or chronic? In acute, there is a big no for steroid. Why? You already know now. You may tell someone also, dude, that NK cell, T cell and all, they are actually saving us. If we give steroid, it will go down. So we should not do that. And then many of the people who thinks like us intellectually will believe it as a truth because it is truth, and the life will be good for our patients, right? It's not our duty to get biased with the severity. Okay, we are supposed to reduce the pain, but not to do harm, right? So that is a very important point I will say to take from this. So next is the management guidelines, which all of you were waiting, and someone was ki steroid kitna dose dena hai, that much you tell me doctor, and then your seminar is done. No, I will just tell you steroid try to avoid. That is the total purpose of this presentation, right? So if we see for that, how do we choose the therapy on the day of on the day when patient comes to you? My first question is the history, the duration of illness. That determines almost everything for me. Other than that, I will see the category age, gender, comorbidity, and do you doubt dengue coexistence, because there using NSAIDs becomes difficult. This I want to see because elderly male patients and with comorbidities, specifically diabetes and all, it has been reported that they are likely to develop long-term arthritis compared to who do not have that. So that is the point. I will keep my patient more aggressively on follow-up. The second part is examination. Catch the pattern. What kind of arthritis it is there. Now a very important point is whenever epidemic comes, we all become biased. Fever, arthritis, chikungunya. I am fine with that. But can it be something else? So keep looking for that. Okay, that pattern. Sometimes you get a fever with polyarthritis and you get rheumatoid nodule on examination, you get oral ulcer on examination, your diagnosis completely changes. It is not even chikungunya, even though that test is positive, right? So we have to be very careful in epidemic. That did that happen in COVID? Yes, it happened. We all were fooled by that, right? So we have to be very vigilant with that. Look for unusuals, and vitals are vitals. That decides everything for life, right? So this is very important. If I get arthritis with my vital checked, having hypertension, my thought does not go in chikungunya very fast. Am I missing something? Am I missing a kidney involvement? Or whether that NSAIDs has caused some problem? Right? So this is very important point what we all should be knowing for the discussion and for management of the patient. Now a very important point I will say is the communication. The communication is the key in almost the cases, that if you tell that NSAIDs and paracetamol and hydration works in most of the patient before we go for something more dangerous, that's what I'm pointing towards steroids. So that is a very important point. You decide your management or you plan your management on 3 points: history, examination, and communication. That will change your management. It is not labs how you plan your management, right? Severity should not bias you, and that is a very important point to take. Most of the time this is a thing that doctor, this is not working, and most of the time when we ask that how much NSAIDs you take, that harms kidney na, so I did not take NSAIDs, I just took the half dose what you gave doctor. So if the optimized NSAIDs have not been taken, you cannot tell it's a refractory. You cannot respect that patient's fear. That's where the communication comes in picture. You communicate that it does not cause harm as you are expecting it. We are using it like crazy. We are giving to so many patients. And if there is someone who tells steroids are safer than NSAIDs, should actually revise all the concept of medicine, right? That is a very serious issue to be there. So we have to be very careful. See, NSAIDs will not stop your body's fight towards virus. Steroid will stop it. Now, what is your choice? NSAIDs, right? With hydration, no problem. That's why NSAIDs should be the choice there. So if we see the management first 14 days, supportive and paracetamol works. I may not agree sometime all the time with paracetamol when joint pain is very severe. I give NSAIDs over paracetamol when pain is severe. If there are definite contraindication, cardiovascular disease which is very recent, or patient has already acute kidney injury or some other contraindication, I may not use it. I may go for the paracetamol or tramadol. Okay, so that is the point to take. Now NSAIDs, if you are giving ibuprofen 400 mg TID, diclofenac 50 mg BD, naproxen 250 mg twice daily, aceclofenac 200 mg OD, toricoxib 90 mg OD, make your one choice and give it in a full dose, right? That's a very important point. A full dose NSAIDs will prevent so many confusions. I am not talking much about tricyclic antidepressant and anticonvulsant in chikungunya, but if you think there is a component of fibromyalgia or a overall pain, if you want to reduce, this may help. Now, something which I kept it some like secret here is nothing but the steroids. Okay, so steroid, if you read about this, it should be given after 3 weeks. The 2 weeks liberty you want to take, you take. And still I am telling you should not give steroid if you have not tried this. If you have not tried NSAIDs, even at 3 weeks, you should not give steroids. If you are giving steroid, you should give it at a very low dose. The low dose is 5 to 10 mg per day, and it should be given at least for 1 to 2 weeks in taper and maximum for 4 weeks. If you want to give steroid, you make sure you have given NSAIDs and patient has failed it with being compliant to full dose. One. Second, you are giving it at a very low dose, 5 to 10 mg per day. Still, it is not very low dose for me. Third, you are giving it not more than 4 weeks, right? So that's a very important message to take when you want to give steroid. You are not touching it in less than 2 weeks of the disease duration. Give it a fair try to NSAIDs. NSAIDs trial, when we talk, the trial means at least for 10 to 14 days with 2 NSAIDs at maximum tolerable dose. That's the definition of NSAIDs trial. Do you really do that trial? Does the patient really take that trial? If not, do not go for steroid in first 2 weeks. Okay, so I'm insisting more and more. It's not my personal bias. I do not have any problem with steroid in my life, but and I maybe I am the one or the rheumatologists are one who use maximum steroid in the life, right? But in this condition, I am not treating rheumatology. I am treating an infectious disease. So why I want to push for steroids, right? So that's a very important message to take. And again, I will go here and say the message was here: severity should not bias you, should not bias you, right? Now, if we go for the next thing after 3 months, okay. So someone says you talked about 14 days, then now you're talking after 3 months. What about after 2 weeks to 12 weeks? That is 2 weeks to 3 months. We'll come to that. Okay. So when we talk about 3 months, when we tell it's a chronic arthritis now, and then you apply that ACR ULAR, it will fulfill the criteria also. Okay. That does not mean it's RA. Okay, this is post chikungunya chronic arthritis, and a label has everything. If I tell your name is something and I label you something because you look like another human, that does not make sense, right? So same way, it looks like RA does not mean it's RA. The RF is positive does not mean it's RA. You have to be very careful here before labeling it something. Because I told you the management matters. At the end of day, anything we do in our clinical practice, why do we do it? Because the management matters, right? That's why we have to label it very properly. So in that phase also, the first thing is NSAIDs. If that does not work, you go for the steroid. Again, 6 to 8 weeks or the 4 weeks. Hydroxychloroquine, I won't comment much. It should be given at 5 mg per kg per day, not more than that. Maximum dose is 400 mg daily. I see lot of prescription with 300 mg BD dose. Not good. Okay, so it's a 5 mg per kg actual body weight. That is the dose you will give for your patient with chikungunya arthritis if you are starting in chronic phase. So question is, first hydroxychloroquine or first steroid? That I will say you depend or you decide depending on the severity. See, hydroxychloroquine is going to take time to act. If you start HCQ and in 3 days patient pain is gone, it is not HCQ which worked. It is a natural history. Or along with that, if you are giving NSAIDs or low dose steroid, that is working. You have to be very careful on interpreting the HCQ and methotrexate clinical result. They are not magic drugs. They take time. But once they act, they are really magic drugs. Okay. If you see the Nature article or so many other evidences, they may tell HCQ may harm. It will not actually help chikungunya arthritis. It may worsen. How to take that evidence? It is up to you. My personal bias, I do not prefer HCQ much. My thing is low dose steroid, and then I look at the methotrexate. Okay. Okay. That is my personal thing. Okay, so when it get a reference as a rheumatologist, that's what I do. The opinion may differ. Okay, but if you see the evidence, HCQ is not that great at present. And sometime I like to believe in evidence-based medicine. and most of the time I like to believe in evidence-based medicine, right? So that's where it comes. Methotrexate should be used at 10 to 25 mg per week with folic acid, the same way you treat in RA. If methotrexate intolerance, sulfasalazine can come in the picture. Okay, so that's again an important point to take. Now this point I am not going to discuss much, the biological therapy. Okay, if you are going to use at that point, that is the point you refer case to rheumatologist for sure. Up till this it is fine, we all can collectively manage the community. But when you think of biological, it is better to do the communication with rheumatologist and take further call, right? So that's a very important message to take. Even after 3 months, arthritis is there, the NSAID is the first choice. After that, you think of low dose steroid and methotrexate. Okay. When you plan this therapy, labeling it chikungunya arthritis, if patient symptoms resolves, after some time you start tapering it. In RA, once the patient symptom resolves, we tell that now we will continue this for at least 1 or 2 years, and then we will see whether we can taper or not. But if you're labeled at post chikungunya arthritis, we will talk to patients, okay, we have started this, so now we will see after some time whether we can taper it or not. Okay, so that is the difference of labeling a disease very properly, right? So these are the therapy for the after 3 months. What about 14 days to 3 months? Okay, so you have to open the box and think what to do. So the first rule is very simple. It's a subacute arthritis. What you are going to manage here, how you are going to manage here, you are going to give NSAIDs first. If that is not working at the proper trial full maximum dose, you are going to go for low dose steroid and you may start methotrexate here, right? So this is the gray zone, and that's why we need data and research to give here that what actually works with a proper evidence. Most of the time we go in that expert opinion, right? And in research we tell it's a evidence D. Actually we should follow the science of evidence A, but no, that doctor told me for one of his patient it worked beautifully. It does not mean that that is the truth, right? We have to take it very properly, very seriously. Can we really extrapolate one doctor's result to the total community? No, we cannot do that, right? So this is the area I still treat this thing like this. Okay, this 14 days I may make it a 21 days, but that is again up to your choice what we are going there. Okay, so that's again an important point to discuss when it comes to chikungunya arthritis. What about tofacitinib and baricitinib? The picture explains everything. Don't do that. Okay, so do not use that. Did you use in COVID? Did it work? Yeah, actually it worked. If you see the NEJM trials also, it actually worked. But there were very strict guidelines. In particular subset of patient it worked, not for everyone. Okay, so tofacitinib and baricitinib actually impairs the JAK-STAT pathway, and that is a one pathway the body is producing interferon. Interferon is fighting against virus. That's why we have to be double careful in this patient whether to use or not to use and how to use. Okay, I will say do not use it. Do not use it. It is quite an important thing to notice for all of us. I don't want to go much in this experiment, but this is an experiment which is published in a very reputed journal, which tells in a mouse model, when they give this tofacitinib in chikungunya virus arthritis, whether did it defer the viral load or not. The answer was no. Okay. So the chikungunya virus RNA replication, when you compare to oral vehicle control and tofacitinib, was almost similar, but it reduced the swelling. Means it tells it helped in initial phase, but this is not in humans. You cannot extrapolate that this experiment. Why I'm keeping this experiment here is because many of the time sometimes people ask that my patient of rheumatoid arthritis who is on tofacitinib developed chikungunya arthritis, what to do with tofacitinib? And most of the time, not for chikungunya, any infection we will say hold it for 7 to 10 days. Once the infection recovers, you restart it. That's a rule almost every rheumatologist will follow in the world. Okay, but the important point is when we are following the rule, sometimes you have to ask a question. What I am telling is scientifically proven or not? Okay, so the science says this is the right now model in mouse model. In human, what is data? I am not sure, but this kind of experiment we will not do. If I hold tofacitinib for 7 to 10 days, I am sure I am not doing any harm to my patient when he or she has developed some infection, right? So this is something to look for the students, that science is more important to sometimes consider rather than commenting very loosely, no, it should do it because I believe like that. Don't do that, right? So this is an important paper. So now it's a question and answer. It is welcome in comments. You can put and we will try to answer from our side. So the questions may be about steroids. I hope you are clear. In first 14 days or 21 days, we are not using it. If we are using it after 14 to 21 days, we are using it for maximum 4 to 8 weeks. We are using it very low dose, 5 to 10 mg, not more than that. Okay, so that's a very important message to take. We are never ever using it without a proper NSAIDs trial. The second is DMARDs in a chronic phase, which is more than 3 months. I will discuss about this. Before that, I am not sure. In subacute phase, if steroid does my job, I don't want to add DMARDs. The very important point about DMARD is if I'm adding it, I'm writing a diagnosis boldly, very clearly. It is a chikungunya arthritis, post chikungunya inflammatory arthritis rather than rheumatoid arthritis. Biologics refer to rheumatologists. That is the point. We all have to be very careful before using those drugs. Indigenous medication, I am no expert to comment on that. So I think for few people it was expected we will talk about this also. Note this, I stay away. I am not expert to talk on this. Okay, so someone expert can talk on this. I do not use it because for me I know how to use all this thing. Okay, so my practice still stays here. I do not comment much on the indigenous medication, right? So here we will conclude, but before concluding, that is the very important slide. Did we talk about prevention? And now it is a very important question. Tell me honestly, when you see the patient of chikungunya virus arthritis in OPD, do we tell all this thing? I am pretty sure that 50% says yes, I tell. It is our duty as physician. So my question is to another 50%, please start telling it, because prevention, primary and secondary, is the ultimate aim if you want to treat community as a doctor. Individual patient differs. That's a secondary, tertiary level prevention, right? So regular clean containers that hold water, keep surrounding clean, ensure there is no stagnant water, wear long sleeves pants, use mosquito repellents, and see a doctor if high grade fever continues for more than 24 hours. So this is a very important point to take, the prevention part in clinical practice, which will help you. If you have any doubt, you can mail me at drsanket.md@gmail.com. I hope I made it quite clear about chikungunya virus arthritis and its management. We will conclude our talk here. The question and answer are most welcome in comments. Thank you.